Very good evening, all of you. Hope you all are doing well. Let's start with today's session. Quick recap of last session. In last session, we discussed about the declaration of variable using where keyword, right? So what are the main thing about that where keyword? It can be redeclared, right? And the scope of where is minimum function level. The nearest scope is function, then script level, then super global level. It can go on. But the minimum scope is function. It doesn't have block level scope. If you're declaring any variable using where, it can be redeclared. It can be reinitialized. Means you can modify also. And is it hoisted? Yes, but hoisted, but it keeps it as undefined, right? It doesn't give any error. Hoisting concept when it comes, when you're using any variable before its declaration. You're declaring later, and before that only you're using it. I hope you remember, right? Console.log, and then I'm using one variable age, but that variable age is getting declared using where afterwards. Okay. So hoisting concept means what? Moving all the declarations to the beginning of the scope. Okay, so here what JavaScript engine does is it just moves this declaration to the beginning of the scope. And as it is moving to the beginning of the scope, it is not taking this value. Only the declaration is moved. It remains undefined. So when you're trying to use it before the declaration, it will be printed as undefined. Getting? And the scope is block level scope. Function level scope, not block level. So all that in the last session we have discussed. Then about let I told you. I hope you know it. Let is assumed to be more secure. So let the minimum scope is block level. Redeclaration not allowed. If you are redeclaring the same variable, it will give you an error, right? It is a syntax error. You cannot do redeclaration. Reinitialization is valid. Like you can modify that value. Now it is 10, but after some time you're changing it. Will do. No problem. Okay? So redeclaration not allowed. Reinitialization allowed. Scope is minimum block level, right? Examples I've given you last time. And 4 point, they are hoisted, but they are kept in TDZ, temporal dead zone. Getting? And suppose you are trying to use the variable in that temporal dead zone. It gives you a reference error. It is not kept as undefined, like where. Understanding? So suppose the console.log and you're using any variable a and it is declared later, let a equal to 29. So what happens is hoisting is done, but it is not undefined. And what is TDZ, temporal dead zone? It is that section of code from where the scope starts, okay, and where it is getting first time declared. Remember, the point where the scope is entered, the scope is starting, and the place where it is declared first time. So that section is called as temporal dead zone. And within temporal dead zone, if you are using that variable, it is declared here, and this is the entry point. And within this, if you are using this variable, it gives you a reference error. Get it? And that I've shown you, I guess. Okay, I showed you that too. Then the third one is that is const. Const is very much like let. Nearly the rules are same. Only one rule is different. That is, it will not allow you to reinitialize it. Why? Because the name itself tells it is const. So once you initialize, you cannot modify it. Okay. But other things are same. Like it cannot be redeclared. The scope is block level. Same like let. Const is also having scope at block level. Remember, block level scope. They cannot be reinitialized. They are hoisted, but they are kept as in a TDZ. Therefore, within the temporal dead zone, if you use it, it's going to give you a reference error. Same thing. Only reinitialization not valid. And whenever you create any variable using const, so at that time only you have to initialize it like this. Const example pi if I'm creating, I cannot leave it like this. Let you can do it. Let pi. Later you can assign the value. When you do let pi, at that time it is undefined. And later when you assign the value based on that, the data type is decided. Here it's not. You have to assign the value. You cannot just declare const because its meaning is only that you have to give the value to it, and whatever value you have given to it cannot be changed. Getting? So suppose if I'm making 3.14. Okay. So once it is initialized, now you cannot modify. Now if I try to re-initialize it, okay, it will give a error. It will give a error over here. So that is no re-initialization. Redeclaration also not possible. Like const a 10. And again, I'm making const a equal to 20 or something else. It will give a error, right? And if you're trying to access it in TDZ, you're also reference error. See here, like I'm writing console.log and I'm accessing that pi. And later I have written const pi equal to 3.14, suppose. Okay, so the scope from where the point from where the scope has started. Okay, and this is the place where it is declared. Within this, if you are trying to use it, it will give you a reference error. Okay, and here also we have block level scope. So suppose within the block, if I create any const, I'll show you all the examples quickly. So once the block is over, so outside that block, I cannot use this pi because this pi scope was only till that block. Getting? Or suppose you have one more const with the name same pi. So the inner pi and the outer pi are different. Inner pi is its own, outer pi is in the outer scope. So when the block is over, this pi is destroyed. You cannot access. Now you can access the outer one. Getting? So minimum scope is block level. So all these points, I hope you have understood. We'll go through the slide. I'll show you example as well. All the examples we will do. And then the fourth one is not writing only anything. Okay? Means you're not mentioning only where or const or let. Okay? Directly you're starting by using variable, which is allowed in JavaScript. It's a loosely type. So directly you're writing x equal to something. That x is not declared by where also, const also, or let also. So that is put into a super global scope. So how it will work, that we will discuss. Before that, we'll just go through the slide of const part. Okay. So const, same like let, it is having a block scope. Okay. Cannot be redeclared. Same like let. Let also we cannot redeclare. This is only the extra thing. Cannot be reassigned. Whereas let can be reassigned because it's a normal variable. These are constants. And must be initialized at the time of declaration, which is not hard and fast rule for let. Like when I'm creating a variable using let, this is okay. It is of undefined type. But for const, it is not allowed. You have to give equal to and some value. Get it? So that is mandatory. Must be initialized at declaration. And they are also hoisted, but you're not allowed to use it within the TZ, temporal dead zone. So if you're using it, it will give you a reference error. Hoisted but not initialized. Okay, see you. This is about the first thing. This cannot be reassigned. I'm talking about this. For all I'm giving example, the first one I'm telling cannot be reassigned. So you have declared first const pi equal to, and you're trying to reassign it. It will give you a type error, assignment to constant variable. Quickly, I'll show you one example. I have to close this folder. We will open our folder. Mm, This one is the folder which I've created. Okay, I'll create one file over here. I'll give name to it as const demo. Okay, let me check the plugins are on. It's there. That's coming. Script tag. Then, as I said, const pi 3.14159. And again, if I try to assign some value, 3.14. Okay, and try to run it. If you're running it, you'll get the appropriate error here. Can you see? It is giving a error, type error, assignment to const variable. Getting? So you cannot assign once the const is declared. Later you cannot change it. Okay? Okay, so hope this example is clear. This example also, which is this point. So the first example is talking about this cannot be reassigned. The second point is talking about must be initialized at declaration. So do you agree this example is talking about this point? Const x, you cannot leave it uninitialized. It is a syntax error. Missing initializer in const declaration. Okay, check. I'm just writing const x. That's all. Your VS Code only is so smart that you don't have to go to the engine. Your VS Code only is doing lot of primarily work. Before running the script and giving it to the JavaScript engine, before that only lot of primary checking your VS Code is doing. See, const declaration must be initialized. And still if you are running it, okay, can you see? Is it giving this error? Missing initializer in const declaration. Means you're declaring the const, but you have to give some initialization, right? So this example also is clear. Then we'll talk about this other examples also like block scope and then about hoisting, all that I'll tell you. See this example. This is telling you about the block scope. So I have created this const within block, const x equal to 20. So it is created within that if block and you're trying to access it outside of that if. So the moment that block got over, this x is destroyed because the scope of x was only limited till block. It is alive, you have to say, alive. It is alive only between this open bracket and close bracket. So you're trying to access it outside that block. It will give a reference error. X is not defined. Okay, see, I'll put a if statement, simple if. Any condition, if true also you can put, not necessarily you have to write like this, x less than 20. I'm creating one const inside x equal to 10. And outside in console.log, you're trying to access that X. Okay. And if you run this script, it gives you an error. It is giving error for this statement because it's the interpreter. No? So wherever it gets first error, it will stop over there. See, I'm just putting this part in a comment and check. Now, is it giving error for this console? Console.log X. Reference error. X is not defined. Okay? I hope you're understanding this rule also. And one more thing I have to tell you. So this part is clear. I hope it is clear to you guys, right? You can just give me quick confirmation in between. Otherwise, like I'll just keep
Yeah.
teaching
Yes,
and
sir.
moving on.
Yes, it's clear, quite clear.
Okay? Then something more. Like if you have a group object, all the data types we have discussed in the past. So I think about array, about object, function, group objects I've told you. In detail, again, we are going to learn, but when we covered all the data types, that time I have told you. Okay. So suppose you have created an object. Now in Python, in JavaScript, object is created this way, key value, key value. We have done it in the past when we took data types. No? I've shown you all this. Now, if you are creating that object as const, so please remember the reference of that object is const. The properties of that object are not const. That you can access. Getting to see here. Person.age equal to 31. That you are allowed to modify. Person.city. Getting that you are allowed to modify. Means you are adding a new key. Already two are there. One new key you are adding. That is okay. But if you're trying to modify the reference only in person, it will give you error. Correct? See here, what it has done on hip, it has created one object with key and value. Okay, the key is name, value is Alice, key is age, value is 30. And the reference of that object is kept in that reference variable person. Okay? So using this person reference, you can access these properties. You can modify name, you can modify age, you can add a new key, you can even remove the key. The key can be removed. You can modify the value of that key. You can add new key, but you are not allowed to modify this reference. This reference cannot be modified. Like you are trying to create a new object and trying to store the reference of that new object. In this, it will give an error. Why? Because that object is const. Here you have written const person. So lock is not on the object. Lock is here. You understanding? Na? Lock किस पे लगा हुआ है? ये ऑब्जेक्ट पे लॉक है. मीन्स वो ऑब्जेक्ट जिस मेमोरी को रेफर कर रहा है वो मेमोरी चेंज हो सकता है बट वो जिसको रेफर कर रहा है वो उसी को ही रेफर करते रहेगा फाइनली. इट कैन नॉट रेफर टू समवन एल्स. Understanding? So here we are trying to do like that. See, person equal to brace bracket. So we are trying to create another empty object and trying to store the reference here. It will give a error. Okay. So this concept also you should know that whenever you have a group object and you have created that object as const. So const is the reference, not the value at that reference. Const कौन है? वो reference const है. वो रेफरेंस जिधर रेफर कर रहा है वो ऑब्जेक्ट कांस्टेंट नहीं है. मींस वैल्यू एट दैट रेफरेंस कैन बी चेंज, द रेफरेंस कैन नॉट बी चेंज. मीनिंग मेरे पास जिस घर की चाबी है वो मैं बदल नहीं सकता हूं. हाँ, बट जिस घर की चाबी है वो घर के अंदर चेंजेस में कर सकता हूं. आई कैन मेक द चेंजेस इन द हाउस बट आई कैन नॉट हैव द की ऑफ सम अदर हाउस. एक बार मुझे जिस घर की की मिली फाइनल तक मेरे पास वही की रहेगी और वो की से मैं उसी घर को एक्सेस कर सकता हूँ. हाँ, बट घर के अंदर के मॉडिफिकेशंस मुझे अलाउड है. वैसे यहां देखो, आपने एज चेंज किया, नया की ऐड किया, दैट इज ओके, बट पर्सन के अंदर का रेफरेंस बदलने गए तो इट विल नॉट अलाउ। गेटिंग? इट विल गिव यू एरर। विल इट गिव टाइप एरर? असाइनमेंट टू कॉन्स्ट वेरिएबल। सो ये पार्ट भी क्लियर है मुझे लगता है। दैट इज ऑल्सो क्लियर। एंड सेम थिंग इज एप्लीकेबल फॉर अरे ऑल्सो। इसका ये डेटा टाइप्स का बारे में हमने बात किया है, ऑब्जेक्ट डेटा टाइप, अरे डेटा टाइप, राइट और नो, फंक्शन डेटा टाइप, ये सब नॉन प्रिमिटिव में आता है, दे कम अंडर रेफरेंस कैटेगरी। एंड प्रिमिटिव वाले हमने देखे थे नंबर, अनडिफाइंड, नल, बुलियन, स्ट्रिंग, यस और नो। तो रिकॉल करते जाओ, जस्ट डोंट अटेंड 1 hour सेशन एंड द वर्क इज ओवर, नॉट डायरेक्टली टुमारो। In between you have to just go through, or little bit you have to brush up on all the concepts which are taught, or you have to little bit explore also on that. Is there some more information related to this topic? You think? So it cannot be spoon feeded. Online, when you are joining, there's different thing. A trainer is a different, a mentor is different, guru is different, teacher is different. Getting? हर एक के definitions अलग होता है, हर एक का role अलग है. Getting? Trainer will be telling you the things, but exploring is your job, right or no? Teachers do everything spoon feeding. टीचर्स जो होता है वो हर एक चीज लाइन बाय लाइन सिखाएंगे और सब कुछ स्पून फीड करेंगे। तो हर एक का रोल अलग है। कभी जाके ढूंढो कि सच में भाई मेंटर एंड ट्रेनर एंड गुरु एंड टीचर इन सबका रोल अलग होता है क्या? यस, जाके देखो, नेक्स्ट टाइम मुझे बताओ रियली होता है क्या नहीं। तो array you can create like this, square bracket, just you have to list out the values in a square bracket, array is created. Now here also see, I've created that array const, means the reference of that array is constant, the array is not constant, meaning देखो वो numbers नाम का एक वेरिएबल तो बनाया आपने, मेमोरी में वो अरे बन गया, ठीक है, the array is created 1 2 and 3, and the reference of that array is stored in this numbers. Now using this reference you can access the methods of array like push and for last में add हुआ, ओके, या नंबर्स ऑफ जीरो पे ये 1 है, उसको 10 बना दिया, ठीक है, दैट इज ओके। बट इफ आई एम क्रिएटिंग अनदर अरे एंड ट्राइंग टू स्टोर द रेफरेंस, दिस विल नॉट डू, ये अलाउड नहीं। क्यों? क्योंकि आपने अरे कॉन्स्ट अरे बनाया, कॉन्स्ट अरे बनाया तो वो रेफरेंस कांस्टेंट है, इसके अंदर किसी दूसरे अरे का रेफरेंस नहीं रख सकते हो। जिसका रेफरेंस रखा है थ्रू आउट उसके लाइफ, ये अरे का जितना भी स्कोप है उसके पूरे स्कोप में वो इसी अरे को रेफर करते रहेगा। गेटिंग? बट ये अरे के अंदर न्यू एलिमेंट्स ऐड कर सकते हो, एलिमेंट्स डिलीट कर सकते हो, एलिमेंट्स मॉडिफाई कर सकते हो, बट you cannot change the reference. Okay, so hope that is also clear. Okay, इनमें से भी एक एग्जांपल दिखा देता हूं क्विकली। देखो जैसे मैंने लिखा const person, I'm creating an object like name, age, okay, and if you want first you can print and see that person console.log, पास करो ये person object, ठीक है। फिर person डॉट मैं कुछ और ऐड करता हूं लाइक वाइफ इक्वल टू सीता, या पर्सन डॉट एज को मैं मॉडिफाई कर देता हूं एंड फिर वापस मैं कंसोल डॉट लॉग प्रिंट करके देखता हूं, ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम, इट विल वर्क, ठीक है। अभी यहाँ एरर आने वाला है तो इसको अभी टाइम बिंग के लिए कमेंट डाल देता हूं एंड स्क्रिप्ट, वेट, मैंने सेव नहीं किया स्क्रिप्ट। Can you see? First, it is printing that person object with name and age. Then we added one more property called wife. Then we modified age to 49. Still, it is working. But when I try to store in that person another empty object, a complete new object I'm creating, or another object with different key value, but a new object is created and then you're trying to store, it will give you an error. Can you see? Uncaught type error, assignment to const variable. तो as person is const, आप नया असाइनमेंट कर रहे हैं, पहले एक बार असाइनमेंट हो चुका है, तो अगेन न्यू असाइनमेंट इज नॉट अलाउड. ठीक है? Same thing will happen for array also. Like I'm creating const numbers equal to storing some values in it. Okay, console.log. You can print and see. In that, you can add some values. Suppose I'm adding 40 or numbers of 0 equal to 100 करता हूं. Again, console.log numbers print करके देखते हैं. ठीक है? See, is it displaying? First, it is showing array 10, 20, 30. Next, 100, 20, 30, 40. So 40 new added and 10 modified to 100. ठीक है? And again, if I try to give some another array to it, another 1, 2, 3, दूसरा array देने की कोशिश करता हूं, it will give you a error. See, again the same error, type error, and that is assignment to const variable. ठीक है? So that part is also clear. Okay, तो const का रूल भी याद रखना है. It is very much like let. रीडिक्लेरेशन करके नहीं देता है. इसमें और भी है कि री इनिशियलाइज भी नहीं. लेट एटलीस्ट री इनिशियलाइज होता है. गेटिंग? एंड यहां भी होस्टेड है, बट इट इज रेफरेंस एरर इफ यू आर एक्सेसिंग इट इन टेम्पररी डेड जोन. एंड इफ यू आर यूजिंग सम कॉम्प्लेक्स ऑब्जेक्ट्स एंड स्कोप उसका ब्लॉक लेवल है, वो भी मैंने दिखाया अभी स्कोप का एग्जांपल. एंड कॉम्प्लेक्स ऑब्जेक्ट्स है लाइक अरेज और object, and that you are making const. So remember the reference is const. उसके अंदर का reference const है, object constant नहीं है. तो value at that reference modify कर सकते हो, reference को modify नहीं कर सकते. ठीक है? Okay. So hope it is clear, right, guys? Just give me quick confirmation. Doubt you can ask me.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
we will
Clear.
proceed with the next one. The next one is where you're not declaring only. Not even let or not even const or not even where. Directly you're starting assigning the value, getting, which is actually dangerous. So modern JavaScript after 2015, that is called as ES6, and after that, they highly discourage, don't use such thing. That is directly start using the variable. Please see to it, declare variable using let or const and then use it. Okay. What happens is, in this case, if you are creating any variable by directly assigning the value, it is automatic put into the global scope. Getting? That too even called as a super global scope. Means not only restricted to the script, the other scripts also can access it. Getting? There is one object called window object. Window object represents the entire browser window. And within browser window object, there is one document object, which represents the inner part of your browser in which the actual HTML content is shown. Whatever HTML content is shown in the inner part of your window, that is called document window. And the entire browser is represented by one object called window object. Now in window object only we have document. So when we were using a document.write to display anything on the browser, in many books they write window.document.write. So this window is implicit, it is assumed. So when you don't write before that, it is assumed that document is actually accessed from window object only. Window object dot document object, like that. So, like just say in Java, when you're writing any class, so explicitly you don't have to write this dot. It is assumed that this dot is there before that data member. Same way, before that document, window dot is by default there. Okay. So in this window object, all those variables go. Whatever variables you have created by directly assigning, not declaring by let or const or where. Okay, direct in your script, you have assigned something. This variable is put into this object. And from this object, everyone can access it. It becomes like a super global. Getting? How window dot and write X, because this becomes a property of that object. Automatic, this becomes a property of that object. And when you write window dot X, you'll be able to access that value, irrespective where that X is created. Within a block or within a function, doesn't matter. You understanding? Like if you have created within a function also, okay, inside a function, some function foo is there, and inside that you created x equal to 100. Okay, function foo and x equal to 100. Automatic, this x is put into that global scope. Getting? So now suppose you're calling that function foo, but till the foo is not called, it won't be put. Remember, because this is just a function definition. Inside the definition, you're assigning 100 to x. Foo is not yet called. Now foo is called. After foo is called, x is created, put into that global scope. And when the function is over and you're trying to access console.log x, it won't give error. And it will not give any error that it is undefined, which we got it for const. Remember, no? In if I created a const, here only I'll show you. See, in some if statement I created, and outside if, when I'm trying to access, it was giving an error because the scope was only till block level. Here it's nothing like that. Okay. When the function is over and you're trying to access that x, it is accessible and it will print 100 because it is put only into the global scope. Because x you haven't declared using let or const or something. If you do it by let, it will be restricted to foo. Even by where also it will be restricted to foo, because where also have minimum scope function level. So when the function is over and then you try to access x, it is going to give error. For which case, if it is declared by const, where or let, nothing, it is put in global, anywhere it is accessible. Getting? So that is the peculiarity. So highly discouraged because it may introduce any bug in your code this way. So JavaScript has given one provision also that you should not be allowed only to create a variable without declaration. Means if you're trying to directly assign any value to a variable without its prior declaration, either by where or let or by const, it should generate an error. So if you want that, you can put one documenting line called as use strict. If you put that line in the whole script, it will not at all allow you to use any variable without declaration. Means you have to create it using let, const, or where. Then only you're allowed to use it. So how to do it? By, as I said, you have to add one reporting line. It is called as a reporting line, or it is a documenting line. At the beginning, you have to put use strict. So strictly your JavaScript engine will use those variables only which are declared. Which are not declared and you're directly trying to assign, it will give an error for such statement. So how you will get that error, that too I'll tell you. But before that, no declaration means automatic global. See here, creates a property on the global object. And who is that global object? Window object. So in that window object, automatically one property will get added. And what is the name of the property? Name of that variable. Which variable? Which you have created directly by assigning the value without let, const or where. Okay? And the scope is global, even inside function. That's what just now I showed you. I created one. Okay? I created one function foo, right? And in that foo, I directly assigned x equal to 10. It is automatic put into the global scope. Understanding, guys? Automatic put into the global scope. And after the function call is done, still you are able to access that variable. Okay, with an example, we'll see. There's a disturbance from my side, but renovation work going on upstairs. Okay, so just bear for today. Tomorrow I'll just complain them. Huh? Don't worry. Not recommended. As I said, this is not a good practice. Without let, const, or where you're directly assigning value. So if you want that your JavaScript engine should generate an error, use this strict mode. How to add that strict mode? I'll tell you. But if you add that, it will prevent doing such cases, directly assigning the value. It will strictly force you to declare the variable either by where, let, or const. See, this is an best example. Okay, I've created one function calculate. Function calculate. And in that function, directly I'm assigning a value to result. In this whole scope, is this result declared anywhere using let or where or const? Nowhere. Directly assigned. Automatic it is put into that global object. Which is that global object? Window object. And result will become the property in that window object. And as it is put in that global object, any script can access it because that object is available to all the scripts as if it becomes a super global variable. Ideally, it should be called as a super global. Super global means accessible to all scripts. Entire script global. Getting function level and block level. Generally, we should call it as leg B rule. Leg B rule means local, enclosing, global, and built-in, which is the super global level. Getting? So the first part is clear to you. I created a function, then I'm calling the function. And after calling that function, I try to print this value. It is still getting printed. Getting? That's what it is saying, pollutes global scope. In the global scope, this variable has got added. And therefore, the global scope is getting polluted. New variables getting added. Highly discouraged. I told you. Suppose I'm calling it as global demo.html. Script first I create. Then I'm creating one function, suppose foo, and in that I'm creating one variable equal to 100. Okay, now this variable will get created only when the function is called. So first I'll call that function. Once the function is called, it goes over there, creates a variable with the value 100 and puts this variable in that global scope so that it is accessible anywhere. Okay, now I'm trying to access it. Console.log and result. Okay, see if I run this script, can you see? Is it printing 100? Same thing if I do it by where, const, or let. You try to do it using where or const or let. Is that variable available outside of that function scope? Function is called, it will go there, it will create a local variable, function over. Is it available outside the script? No, guys. Getting? Is it giving an error? Why? Because you have declared it using where. So the scope of that variable is only restricted to the function. So outside that function, if I'm trying to access, it gives an error. See, reference error. Result is not defined. Getting? And just by removing that, okay, see, it prints the value. Okay, so hope that part is clear. And as I said, if you want uh, that no variable should be created without declaration. You want that in your code. Wherever any variable is getting assigned any value, it should be declared, then only it should be assigned. Let it get declared by let or const or where, but it should be declared, then only you can assign. Then use this keyword. This you can put in the beginning of your script so that it will ensure this throughout. Okay, you can try putting it. Okay, let's see. Now is it giving error for this? The moment I put that, okay, and suppose we are doing it normal in normal function also. Like I'm not putting a result. Okay. Suppose I'm leaving this part aside. Separate variable x equal to 20 directly. See, for that also, is it giving an error? X equal to 20 because we have used this line, use trick. So is it giving an error? X equal to 20. It is saying you cannot assign a value unless and until it is declared. So please declare it using let or where or const. Got it? Reference error, X is not defined. Okay. And suppose it is declared, let X. So that error will go and then it will come to this below error. See, that error is gone. Why? Because we are assigning to X and X is declared. Now the error is related to result. Again, same thing. No? You're trying to assign a value to result, but result is not declared. And you have mentioned this key. This is like an reporting line, or this is a documentation line. Already you're announcing to your JavaScript engine that in the whole code, please check. In the whole code, please check or please confirm that no variable is used without declaration. Okay, so that part is clear. Check here. Now, I've not used this use trick. I just want to tell you in this example that how it is put into that global object. Who is that global object? Window object. Window represents the entire browser window. Means in that the borders, the address bar, everything comes. And document object only represents the inner part of the window where the output is produced. Whatever HTML output is produced in that inner rectangle, that is the document object. Document object is a part of a window object. It's a hierarchy. So when we'll come to DOM and all, it will be more clear to you. See, so what we did, we have created one function in that directly you're assigning something to a variable. Automatic, this variable is put into a global scope. It is put into the global object because you have declared using neither where, let, or const. So automatic in global. Now you call that function. When the function is called, this variable got created. It is put into the global scope. Now you're accessing the variable, it will print. And if you try to access the same variable using that property, the name of the variable only will become the property in that object. So if you're accessing that property from the window object, still it will print the same thing. Getting? Just try to check it in this example. Here, what I'll do is now, anyway, here, okay, for time being, I'll remove this. Okay, and in this case also window.result, it will print 100. The same thing is happening here. No need to create one more function to show you that. Okay, like suppose I'm creating one function greet. Directly I'm creating a message. Uh, Hello world. Okay, I'm calling that function greet. The moment I call that function, when I call the function, it will go there and create the variable message, store value in it. And as it is declared neither with where, let, or const, it is automatic put into that global object, window object as a property with the name message. So when you try to access it after greet, suppose you're accessing in console.log message and console.log window.message. Can you see? It is put in that window object as well and run the script. Is it printing hello world for both the cases? Okay. Why? Because the object is put into that global scope. Okay. Is it clear? So
Yes,
not,
yes.
it is highly discouraged. Generally, we should not go with such situations. Don't be so lazy. It's like that. Don't be so lazy that you're just directly assigning the value to the variable. You're not doing declaration. In Python and all, we do like this. In Python, there is no concept of where also, let also, and const also. Directly start assigning the value, variables get created. Okay. Okay. So we will just do the comparison of all the four things we have discussed now from last session about where, let, const, and no keyword. So first we will talk about their scope. So very useful from the interview perspective. Like when you are answering in the interview, this table will be very much useful. Based on this table, you can give your answer. When you're answering vague, you're not just speaking. In your mind, just keep the points that when they ask that differentiate or tell something about where, let, const, and not using any keyword. So keep in your mind that I'm going to talk first about scope, about hosting, about reassign, about redeclaration, and whether it is safe or not. Getting? So scope, where if you're doing, then its scope is minimum function level, no block level. The nearest scope is function. I showed you also, I created one variable using where in a if, and outside if also it was accessible. You remember we created some condition, and inside that I created where x equal to 10. And then after if I try to access that x, it was available because it is not to block level. The nearest scope is function and not function, then script level. Getting? So the scope is function. Let scope is block level. Same example which I gave inside if I create a variable let x equal to 10 and if over, so outside if I try to access x, it will give you an error, reference error. Same is the case for const. And when you don't use any keyword, directly only it is put into which scope? not block, not function. It is directly put into the global scope, and therefore it can be accessed anywhere. Throughout the script, you can access anywhere. So about the scope is clear. Then hoisting is there or no? So, and a hoisting concept come when into picture. Hoisting means shifting the variable declaration to the beginning of the scope. And when it comes into picture, when you're trying to use any variable before its declaration, you have used first and then you are declaring it. Then in that case, the declaration is moved to the beginning. Getting? But in case of variable, variable means where, if you have declared it using where, hoisting is done, but it is keeping that variable undefined. And in let and const, okay, in case of let and const, it just puts it into temporal dead zone. So if you are using it from the entry of the scope and the place where it is declared, in between this, if you are trying to use it, it will give you a reference error. Because those variables which go in temporal dead zone, they are not allowed to use in it. There is a strictly reference error. And concept of hoisting doesn't apply only to those variable which you are not declaring using any of the keyword. Because the moment it is assigned for the first time, that time only it is put into the global scope, right? Okay? Then about redeclaring. Can I redeclare a variable where A and again after some time where A? For variable, it doesn't give any error. Getting? But redeclaration of let and const not allowed. And redeclaration concept doesn't apply only for no. It is just going to reassign. See, if I do x equal to 100 and after some time x equal to 200, the same variable will just get modified. Okay? So redeclaration for where allowed, the other thing for here, the concept is only not applicable. And for let and const, error. Reassignment. Can I reassign where? Yes. Let, yes. Const, not. No keyword variable? Yes. And about security. So obviously where is also not recommended. It is old school technique. Before 2015 JavaScript, ES6 we call. So before 2000 JavaScript, we were declaring using where. After 2015 JavaScript, that is ES6 standard, they highly recommend create variable only using let and const. Getting? So they are more safer. And this is three-time cross means very poor technique. Why? Automatic goes in a window object and window object is accessible everywhere. Okay? Therefore, highly not recommended. So comparison points are clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay?
clear.
Sure. Good. Then now next session, not for today's session because it will take some time. So in the next session, we will be discussing about operators. So what are operators, their classification, everything we will learn, their priority, precedence. Then one by one, we will talk about each operators in JavaScript, as many operators. Once we cover with operator, then we'll talk about functions, how to write functions, reusability. Then some exercises also will solve. Okay. So for today, we will take a pause over here. Tomorrow, we'll start with this new topic.